Hey guys, how you doing today? This one's going to be a big long one. This one, I mean, I've got nothing to do today. I can't really go anywhere because stay-at-home order. I'm actually going to abide by that. I've been abiding by it this whole time. I think everybody should. I mean, I understand that people have to go out and make money for themselves, and if they don't, then you can't pay your bills. That's capitalism, baby. That's how it goes. So instead of paying people to stay home and actually reconfiguring the society for the benefit of the society, we are pretending as though the capitalist system can be salvaged when it can't be. Uh, so there's a lot to talk about, actually. There's a lot to talk about. And I try to do like little snippet videos, but today I feel like a big long one. So if that's what you're in for, that's what we're doing. Um, if that's not what you're in for, thanks for clicking on the link. Thanks for taking a look. Like, share, subscribe, all that. um, let's just start with Doug Ford walking back on the cops, right? Like, it made sense to me when Doug Ford announced that he was going to increase the role of the police in regards to this COVID-19 thing, because that's who Doug Ford is, right? Like there is only one organization that he has actually increased funding for in his time, and that's the police, who already have an inflated budget, who are already outrageously funded. Um, they're the police are more funded than any other organization. Like they get more funding than education. They get more funding than sanitation. Like they get more funding than anybody. And Doug Ford, of course, gives more funding to them in his first year of office, while he's committing austerity against the populace in every other way. And so it makes complete sense that the first lever he will reach for is the police, right? Also very telling and heartening in a way, right? Heartening that many of the police organizations turned this down. That when Doug Ford said that he wanted to increase police presence, like allowing the police to do random stops, allowing them to inquire, just allowing police to insert themselves into our day-to-day lives in a very real way. Lots and lots of police forces across Ontario were just like, no, thank you. No, we are not going to do that. Because the overt abuse of power, or the or more troubling, it to me is the perception of the misuse of power, right? Like, certainly there would be misuse of this power, but I think that, like, we are living in a post George Floyd environment, right? We are living in an environment where people are truly eyeing up the police and are truly looking at them like in very real ways, like not in not in sort of manufactured propagandistic ways, but like people are outright saying we need to defund the police organizations. We need to disarm the police. We need to do these things. And those, in my view, that's completely correct. It's completely correct. Like, I saw it was incredible. I saw a graph just yesterday that was showing the amount of funding that the Americans are doing for their police force as compared to other military spending that the world does. And the Americans, of course, have the highest level of military spending by a wide margin. The second are the Chinese, which makes sense because they're preparing for some kind of conflict with the Americans. They are arming themselves and getting ready for some kind of fallout with the Americans. And then the third level of military spending was the American police. And then it was like the Indian government, and like, so it's just like, that's an incredible amount of spending to be spending on domestic policing. And here in Canada we have a very similar thing going on. And so, I mean, to me it was a moment where Doug Ford completely revealed, like, he is a fascist. Like, he doesn't have ideas, he doesn't have thoughts. His ideas are to suppress the populace, to steal their money for himself. And so when he announced an increase in police presence, I was like, yeah, because he doesn't have any other ideas. He doesn't, or if he does have other ideas, they're inactable, because if you attempt to restructure your society, if you attempt to restructure your society in any way except along capitalist lines, well, then you're no longer a capitalist. But Doug Ford is. So uh, I'm glad to see that he is responding to public force. But I mean, if it was just the public that was clapping back on the police, he would just cross his arms and say nothing about it. The reality is that it's the police forces themselves, right? It's the police forces themselves that have said, no, this is a bad idea, because they understand what would happen and they understand what it means for the public. Again, if you're one of the people who dart out of these videos around this time, please like, please share, please subscribe, please do it, hit all the bells, hit all the whistles. Thank you so much for coming. We need support for leftist voices. We need more people on the left speaking up against overt, obvious fascist organizations that are taking our societies over. And it does warm my heart a little bit to know that when a leader such as Doug Ford reaches for fascism and reaches for the most fascist solutions to problems, the foot soldiers, i.e. the police, are going to say no thank you, and they're not going to participate. That does warm my heart a lot, actually. It's nice to know that should the society begin to actually openly act in fascist ways, that the people who would be the people enforcing that, the police, are going to say, no thank you. No thank you. And I mean, these police departments are treading on thin ice as it is. Like, they understand there's a great deal of public scrutiny. They understand that the public has their eye on them at the moment. And so Doug Ford saying, like, oh yeah, now the police can just randomly stop you, inquire about where you're going, and then have to make a judgment call as to whether or not you're telling them the truth, and then action. Like, it's a disaster. It's a total disaster from start to finish. And it really, it just shows you how stupid Doug Ford is, right? He doesn't have ideas. He doesn't have anything. His idea is just money for him. But of course, Doug Ford's not like the problem, right? Like, Doug Ford's not the problem. Like, we have a cultural problem going on, without a doubt. There's the culture of that capitalism has created is self-destructive, and this moves into the conversation of vaccines. I'm reading articles where we have vaccines that are about to go bad because our policies are that we don't give vaccines to people who are under the age of 55, right? I'm reading this kind of thing. That's insane. Like, why are we letting a single vaccine go bad? But the capitalist vaccine policies are a complete and total disaster, and they're setting it up. Like, the vaccines only work if everyone gets vaccinated. And by everybody, I mean, like, literally think of the poorest nation that exists in the world. Those people need to be vaccinated. But they can afford the vaccines. They're not going to be able to pay the extortion fees that the capitalists are doing when they do capitalism, which is to withhold necessary resources, right? They're not going to be able to do that. And so what you're saying, essentially, or what capitalism insists, is that because you can't pay for these vaccines and you don't get vaccinated, but that means that you're just creating this, like, spawning pool. You're just creating this, like, breeding ground where the virus can mutate and the virus can shift and change, and it can just sidestep your vaccine, right? And because of these, like, extremely short-sighted capitalist ideas where the vaccine is for sale and so we're going to jack the price and make it completely unaffordable, and it essentially ensures that this virus not only is going to stick around, but that we will be dealing with this in another year's time. Like, in another year's time, I'm going to be sitting here and I'm going to be talking about COVID-19 still, right? And The brief fleeting hope we had that said like, oh well, everybody will get vaccinated and there's like some hope in like, that's all gone. It's all gone, and it's all gone for very obvious reasons. Capitalists refuse to do what must be done, right? They refuse to actually vaccinate the poor. They refuse to actually look at people who can't afford it and say, you get it for free. We're not going to talk about it. You just have it, right? And what is going to start happening is that the people who have already been vaccinated, who, you know, they're just living their lives and they're sort of living in that ignorance is bliss sort of space. Uh, you know, they're not. Uh, uh, they're going to lower their guard, right? They're going to lower their precautionary measures because they have the vaccine and they feel that they've been vaccinated. So why should they? You know, oh, I don't need to wear the mask so studiously. I don't need to be so hardline on that. I can be a little bit, you know, like all of this and all of the precautions and the thoughts and the anxiety they try to put in the back of their head, and they're not gonna, you know. And what are they gonna do? They're gonna spread this thing around, right? Which maybe they'll be safe. Maybe the vaccine offers them a certain shield of protection, but the poor people who are not getting the vaccine are still extremely vulnerable, right? And we know this is true. The Ontario doctors are talking about this. Like, I'm not making up a conspiracy. Like, when I talk this way, people say that I'm making up a conspiracy theory narrative. This is a narrative that's coming out of the Ontario doctors. You can go see the interviews on the CBC. They are talking about this, right? Because they're aware. They're aware, and it's deeply, deeply, deeply frustrating, because it means that all of the sacrifice and all of the work that people are putting in is for nothing, right? It's for nothing, and it's because our leadership, people like Justin Trudeau, right, uh, uh, refuse to actually do what must be done, and like the capitalist structure refuses to do what must be done, right? And what must be done? We have to vaccinate everybody, including the poor. But we're not interested in that. We're interested in money. We're interested in money and power for ourselves, first and foremost, even if it means we kill ourselves. So, this to me is like, I keep asking on this channel over and over again, like, what's it going to take for people to realize that this capitalist system is a failure? What's it actually going to take? And I, I have genuinely come to see that for some people it is going to have to take like a complete systems collapse in their own lives. Like, they're going to have to see it directly. And even then, right? I would be very surprised to find that some of these people, like, I know people who their lives are in free fall collapse. I know people whose lives are in complete and total free fall collapse, who speak the way that I do to their parents, and their parents refuse to believe them. They refuse to believe them, right? So it must be that you're doing something wrong, and that you're you know, you're lazy, or you're not doing the right thing, or any of this kind of stuff. And oh, you just need to go in and shake someone's hand, or any of this kind of nonsense advice that the boomers give. And they just refuse to acknowledge that their own children are telling them the truth. Like, that's a significant cultural. First of all, it's a major cultural victory for capitalism, that uh, that wealthy boomers are able to believe billionaires who are dominating their own children instead of listening to their own children. Like, that's a major success for capitalist propaganda, right? But I see it all the time, and I talk to people all the time. Like, I know people who have had to, like, the situation gets so bad that they have to leave home, even if it means that they are living in this precarious, horrific kind of condition, because their parents are so overwhelmingly ignorant about what's actually happening. And something like the failing vaccine system, like this failed raft of vaccines, like, is it going to take just like an outright Are people's children going to actually have to die in front of them before they start to realize that, like, the issue is the capitalist structure, that the capitalist structure itself is a complete and total failure, right? I think it will. I think it will. I think it will take. Uh, People are going to have to experience serious tragedy uh, because they put the ideology of the death cult of capitalism ahead of even the lives of their own family, right? I think that that's just true. I mean, you can see it. Like, why would anyone continue to support these conservatives, and yet 1 in 3 Canadians do, right? Even federally, there's still 1 in 4 Canadians are still supporting Aaron O'Toole and these conservatives, even while they deny climate change is a problem, even while they like poor Aaron O'Toole is trying so hard to actually put forward climate change issues and actually address climate change issues, but the reality is his own base doesn't believe it, right? And so when he loses the next election, because he is going to lose the next election, they're going to put somebody up there who is just going to be an outright open fascist, right? Who probably an eco-fascist who's just straight up going to preach a message of total destruction. We need to bring those jobs back, right? We need to, and it's just going to be total bullshit. Like, none of that's actually going to happen. But the conservatives have become such a rabid death cult that they're going to just go for it because they don't have anything else going on. And this to me is like, it is actually a failure of the Liberal Party, right? That the Liberal Party is not responding to the actual legitimate concerns. Like, I talk to conservatives with some regularity, and if you actually listen, like, their complaint is this carbon tax, right? That they're being taxed for producing food. Like, if you're a rural farmer, right, you're being taxed for using fuel and which you need in order to produce food, right? Uh, and the Liberal government is not really doing much of anything to alleviate that or to alleviate those concerns. And of course, you can get into the intricacies of that policy, but like, rural farmers don't care about the intricacies of policies. Like, if rural farmers actually cared about the intricacies of policies, they would admit first and foremost that they're on land that was given to them by the government in the first place, with the largest government handout in the history of the nation. They don't do that. They pretend as though it's all rugged individualism. They did it by themselves, right? But Trudeau's climate plan. First of all, it just smacks of politicization, right? Like, the Aaron O'Toole conservatives come out and say we have an environmental plan that is going to reduce emissions by 30%, and then a few days later, Trudeau comes out with his plan and says, haha, we're going to reduce it by 40%. And this kind of like gotcha sort of thing. And that really does seem like what Trudeau is just trying to do is he's just trying to dunk on these conservatives, which is easy to do. Like, it's no, you don't need a big PR team. You don't need like $1 billion organization to dunk on these conservatives. They're climate change deniers, right? Like, you can dunk on them pretty easily. My feeling, of course, though, is Trudeau comes out, he says, we're going to lower emissions 40% by 2030. Like, I don't believe him. I just don't believe him. Like, I don't really believe anything that the Liberals have to say any longer, right? Like, this is why, like, when the Liberal caucus got together and they actually passed a resolution to support the basic income, I was like, so? Like, it doesn't mean anything, right? Like, the Trudeau Liberals have obviously been captured by corporate power. They're obviously in the pocket of corporate power. They're not interested in... they're not actually interested in facing these issues. They're not actually interested in facing these problems. They're not actually interested in helping anybody. They're interested in looking like they're helping people. They're interested in looking like they want to help people, right? It's like how the Democrats in the United States operate, right? Like, they support all of the same fascist policies that the Trump administration did, right? They just put a little Black Lives Matter sticker on it, and say, like put a little rainbow flag beside it, and they say, no, and they just move forward like that, right? They have you have like a fascist organization and a fascist government, but they've just got a little smiley face on it, right? And the liberals are just like, they are in complete lockstep with the conservatives on the issues that you're not supposed to talk about, right? Like, the liberals want you to, be LGBTQ, be a minority, right? Be queer, and they want you to be a serf, right? And on issues of like sexuality or gender identity or any of that kind of stuff, yeah, the liberals are going to support you, absolutely. But on economic lines, on whether or not you should or should not be a serf, the liberals and the conservatives are in complete agreement with one another, right? Yeah, you should be a serf. Obviously, you should be a serf. And I'm deeply concerned that the NDP are just going to say the same thing, right? Like, if there was ever a time for a political party to run a hard-line left-wing agenda, like a hard-line, like transfer the means of production to the workers, hard-line, now is it. Like, the time is now. But Jagmeet is not really a visionary. He doesn't really have ideas. His strength, if you want to call it that, but it's obvious that he just listens to what his caucus says and then speaks. He just kind of says it back to his caucus. And that he has just sort of found himself in the position that he has found himself. But he doesn't really have much by way of ideas, right? And you can just take a look on his Twitter feed, right? He's just sort of like, if he was running a campaign 20 years ago, he would be considered a centrist, right? He would be considered like a centrist liberal, basically. But it's because the political discourse has now swung so far to the right, where saying even the most basic things, like everyone should have food and shelter, like the idea that working a full-time job should actually provide more than just a meager subsistence, is now considered a leftist idea. Like, that's how far the politics have gone to the far right, where you now have, like, the Conservative Party is a far right fascist party, like, and Aaron O'Toole is doing everything he can to give it the appearance of being more on the right wing. He's not interested in taking it to the center at all, but on the right wing, and kind of drawing it that way. But the reality is that the party is a far right fascist party, right? Like, that's who they are. That is their identity. And the Trudeau Liberals are basically, they're a right wing party, firmly a right wing party, right? They're not interested in like leftist ideas or leftist thoughts. They'll espouse leftist ideas, which is exactly what they're doing with this climate change plan, right? Like, over the course of the pandemic, the organizations that were able to get the most access to the Trudeau Liberals was the oil lobby, right? Like, the oil lobby is who the Justin Trudeau Liberals are talking to. That's who they're organizing with, right? And when they stand up and say, oh yeah, we're going to reduce emissions and all this kind of stuff, like, it's total... I don't believe them. To me, it's complete nonsense, right? And of course they'll attempt to reconfigure the numbers, right? Like, oh, we reduced emissions by 40%, but, as long as you omit all of this, which is exactly what they do. It's like, go watch Planet of the Humans and realize that to meet a reduction in, like, coal production, they've increased production of something called biomass fuel, right? Which is clear-cutting forests. That's what it is. So, and chances are good the Trudeau Liberals will do something exactly along those lines, where they'll be like, oh yeah, hey, we're using, like 10% less oil. Yeah, we're doing it by clear-cutting our forests, right? And chances are good that's what the Trudeau Liberals will do, and what they'll try to put up in our faces. I mean, if you follow this channel for any length of time, you understand, like, I think we should abandon this party. Like, they're not doing anything, right? They're just lying to us constantly. I don't know why anybody actually believes them anymore. And I understand why the poll numbers are as high as they are. Like, Trudeau gets like 35% support. And I understand that's probably because we're in the midst of this pandemic, right? And people have deluded themselves into believing that the Trudeau government is doing a good job. When, like, let's be really frank about these Trudeau liberals. They've basically just stepped back and let the premiers of the provinces take the damage, right? Like, they're playing politics too with this, right? People shake their fists at Doug Ford, people shake their fists at Kenny, right? And are getting mad and all of this, and the Trudeau liberals are like, oh good, they're mad at the Conservatives, and they're ignoring us. Trudeau could enact the Emergencies Act. Like, Trudeau offered Doug Ford's support, which Doug Ford turned down in a move that can only be called blisteringly stupid, right? Even from like a political perspective, like even a Machiavellian, like, take the aid, dude. Like, people want you to do that, even if it is superfluous, even if it is for naught, right? Like, just the optics of it, for God's sakes. But the Trudeau liberals, like, they could enact the Emergencies Act. They could come in. They could take a look and see that, like, this is a botched job and we need to actually do something. But they're in the thrall of capitalist corporate power too, right? They're not interested. They're not interested in helping the homeless. They're not interested in helping the precariat. They're not interested in any of that, right? And as long as people are willing to just pour their ire on the premiers of the provinces while ignoring the federal government, that's exactly what they'll do, right? They don't care about the populace, right? They care about brunch and money for themselves. That's what they care about. And so when Trudeau stands up and says we're going to lower emissions 40% by 2030, I don't see any reason to believe that. And I think if you are sort of trying to believe that, I think it's a very gullible place to be. It's like this naive hopefulness, right? That people have about these issues. It's like Biden announced recently that they're going to withdraw troops from Afghanistan, right? That's not going to happen. Like, we're going to withdraw all the troops from Afghanistan by September 11th. That's the goal. Donald Trump said the same thing. Obama said the same thing. It didn't happen. And it's not going to happen for a very clear reason, right? It's not going to happen for a very obvious reason. That Afghanistan's border rudders up against China. Most specifically, Afghanistan's border rudders up against the Xinjiang region in China, which is the origin point of the Belt and Road Initiative, which the United States is attempting to disrupt. Like, they're not going to pull troops out of Afghanistan. Like, maybe they'll pull, like, some numbers of troops, but what they'll do is they'll just, like, recategorize troops, right? They're going to keep their military bases there. Like, they might pull, like, general troops out, but they'll keep administrators there, right? They'll keep, officers there, right? They'll just recategorize who these guys are, and they'll keep them there so that the United States military always has access to this border between Afghanistan and China, so that if they want to get troops in, or if they want to shuffle guns or weapons or resources to terrorist organizations that they fund in the region, which is a tried and true American strategy, they'll do that. And as long as we keep buying into these, like, obvious grifts, right? Like, Trudeau's climate plan is an obvious grift, right? The vaccination thing has become an obvious grift. Like, all of the things that I'm talking about today are obvious, overt, in-your-face grifts, where these people are desperate to convince you that they care about you, but they don't. They don't at all, and it's becoming clearer and it's going to become more and more and more obvious as time moves forward, right? And what the populace needs to get through its head and what it needs to realize is that it's not going to stop until we have a general strike, right? Like, I don't think that anybody should be supporting any of these political parties. What we should be doing is we should be pouring our resources into third-party, non-affiliated political organizations. I've chosen Socialist Action. It's in the description below, right? You can click on it, you can take a look. This is an explicitly anti-capitalist organization who exists specifically to pressure political organizations and move them further to the left, which is exactly what we need to be doing, right? Exactly what we need to be doing. There, the capitalist idea of greed and hoarding wealth is a complete failure. It's a total abomination, and it needs to be done away with. It needs to be done away with quickly, like quickly, much faster than we've been doing it, if we've been doing it at all. And because if we keep funneling our energy and our resources towards these grifters, who are overt liars, who do not care about us at all, and don't care about issues like climate change. They only care about climate change because we are making them, right? Because we are forcing them to say it, to stand up and actually say, like, hey, can you have an opinion on climate change that might actually have a message of hope? But it's complete naivety. It's complete naivety to believe that these politicians are actually going to do anything about it. Right? They're not. That's not real. That's not going to happen. That doesn't make them richer. That doesn't help the oil lobby that they work for, right? Like, that's foolishness. And the only way anything is actually going to happen, as long as we keep voting for these grifters, is a mass general strike, right? And I don't mean like a one day, like, get out in the street and be like, yeah, protest or like show our support for climate change or any of this kind of stuff. I literally mean, like, it's going to be months and months and months and months and months of us withholding our labor in serious ways, right? Like, we need to end this idea that we can negotiate with these capitalists. Like, they're a suicidal death cult. They're a suicidal death cult. They're going to tell us everything that we want to hear. And it's going to get worse, right? It's going to get worse. Because eventually the populace will get to a point where we're no longer going to accept the grift. Like, we're no longer going to accept the lies. And the capitalists will just begin ruling nakedly and openly. That's been the trajectory of the capitalist class here in North America. That they'll just drop the grift and they'll just say, whatever, go die, right? They're already starting to organize along those lines. So this is what we need to do. We need to organize ourselves. We need to get into organizations like Socialist Action. And we need to organize around mass general strikes, right? That's what needs to be done. And it's what we need to have been doing years and years, decades ago. Decades ago, we needed to have been holding mass general strikes. And should we ever get out of this COVID-19 situation, which, I mean, it's questionable as to whether or not we ever will, with the way that we're bungling the vaccinations and the way that we're bungling this what needs to be done. But like, when we get out of this, it's the only way that we're going to be able to rebuild an economy that's worth living in is by ensuring that the poorest people in the society are well taken care of. That's the only way. And anything else is just a complete capitulation and a complete wage slavery, right? Which, that's what the capitalists want. That's what they've always wanted, right? Like, they don't want to pay for your labor. They want your labor to be free. And if they can reconfigure the society so that your labor is basically free while they do no work and take the fruits of your labor, yeah, they will absolutely do that. And we shouldn't fool ourselves. And the only way that's not going to happen is if we hold mass general strikes, if we withhold our labor from the capitalist class, right? And if we tell our political, the people in politics, the people in power, that we will not be governed this way, we will not be ruled this way, right? That's it. Like, they're not going to help us otherwise. They're going to just continuously sell us out to corporate power, which is all they've ever done. Okay, guys, this is the end of this video. If you've made it to this point in the video, please do consider donating to my Patreon. We need leftist voices. We need support for leftist voices. We need people who are willing to lay it all out and risk everything they've got in order to throw their voice up against these right-wing sociopathic death cultists who have taken our society over and who are sacrificing our lives for their profits, right? My Patreon is in the description below. Even $1 helps. If you've made it to this point, please do consider donating. I really could use the support. I know that you're doing wonderfully out there. I know that you are. This is our economy and our society is in free fall collapse. It's in a free fall collapse because capitalism eats itself. And in the midst of that free fall collapse, where we're being told outright it's every man for themselves, well, under those circumstances, I know you're doing well. I know you're making good decisions. I know you're trying to help the people around you. I know that you are moving forward with grace and dignity and thoughtfulness. I know that you're trying to do your best. You are a divine being, standing on divine energy, attempting to deal with people who insist that you are something less than that. They spend billions of dollars to convince you that you are something less than that. You're not. You are part of the divine energy. You are a divine being speaking to other divine beings, and you should expect to be treated as such. Good luck. We're going to need it.